Well, in these pandemic times, disease detection technology is crucial to a country's ability to control an outbreak. Today in our special Sunday report, we turn to an unconventional technology for sniffing out disease. That's right, dogs. Researchers are exploring the potential of detection dogs, finding them to be useful in the screening of diseases like COVID and even cancer. Researchers are also experimenting with robotic systems that can act in a similar way to detection dogs. These robots and detection dogs open up new possibilities for countries seeking to screen for contagion and protect their borders.
Its small body darting from suitcase to suitcase, the dog sits in place once it detects a suspicious odor. This was taken in 2018 when African swine fever was at its height. Quarantine efforts at the Taiwan Taoyuan International Airport relied on this beagle's keen sense of smell. One after another, packages containing smuggled pork were seized by authorities.
人跟狗狗的嗅觉细胞是很不一样的。
A dog's olfactory cells are very different from those of humans. Humans have roughly 5 million of these cells, while dogs have around 200 million of them. The things a dog is able to smell are much greater in number than those humans can smell.
In 2020, humans are pinning even greater hopes on this ability of dogs. COVID-19 has claimed over 1.5 million lives worldwide, and over 70 million have become infected, causing countries everywhere to shut their borders and to subject the few visitors allowed in to rigorous testing. In Northern Europe, Finland is bravely entrusting part of this task to a group of four-legged personnel, hoping their keen senses will help detect arriving travelers that are carrying the virus that causes the disease.
First, we have people enter this small room where they swab themselves to collect a sample, which is deposited into a container. I place that next to a container with a contrasting sample and ask the dog if it detects anything in the samples.
Finland's use of scent detection in place of throat swab tests defies the imagination, leading some to ask whether a disease really produces a scent.
Cirrhosis patients produce a smell that, if you stand next to them, you will detect as the scent of ammonia. Sometimes patients with pneumonia will produce gases that you will detect as many strange smells. Sometimes the smells are from Pseudomonas aeruginosa, but not everyone can smell it.
Normal cells and cancerous cells are different, and they travel a different metabolic path in the body. Dogs have a sense of smell several magnitudes greater than that of people, and when they smell a person's body, they may be able to detect the presence of cancerous cells. This is because when the byproducts of metabolism are produced, if they are able to volatilize, when they volatilize, they will produce a scent. So the question is, can we use this ability of dogs to smell cancer cells? To detect whether a person has cancer?
Aside from cancer, researchers have discovered that dogs can detect diabetes, malaria, Parkinson's, and other diseases, and they do this with a level of accuracy greater than 60%. In recent years, medical organizations in Taiwan have been researching the use of dogs to detect cancer. Breast cancer specialist Jiang Jun hopes that dogs can be used to detect patients with early-stage breast cancer.
对，这边就是我们的那个负80度C的冰箱，所以我们一旦拿到病人尿液的时候，我们要把它放在这种小冰桶里面，而且要立刻把它送到负80度的冰箱。这边有几个我们的仪器。
To train dogs to recognize the smell of breast cancer, Jiang plans to collect urine samples from 25 breast cancer patients and 25 healthy women. Once collected, the samples will be sent to a laboratory and training will begin.
那先带你参观一下我们的狗狗的宿舍。这边就是我们狗狗的宿舍。
There is the question of what dogs are most suitable for use in cancer detection.
重点挑的话，就是要看它的活动力。
The main point, if I had to choose, would be how active the dog is. The more active, the better. The more unruly they are, the more I like them. Unruly dogs tend to be more curious. If a dog is too quiet, all they can do is wait for someone to give them commands. They will be harder to train as a detection dog.
As the camera approaches him, he explodes with excitement. This is Chuan Chuan. He is a detection dog specializing in detecting bladder cancer. To test his ability, we have invited a trainer who has brought 7 urine samples, including one from a cancer patient, to conduct a blind test.
这个就是那个泌尿上皮癌患者的尿液。
The trainer takes 3 milliliter samples of urine and deposits them onto cotton swabs. Of the 7 petri dishes, only 1 contains a sample from the cancer patient. These samples are then brought to the lab, where they are placed into special receptacles designed for detection dogs to use. After the preparations are complete, the test begins.
那我们现在就是在做泌尿上皮癌的检测。
We are now doing the bladder cancer test. Receptacle number 1 has the cancer patient sample. In a moment, we will ask Chuan Chuan to help us do a test.
好啦，走吧，进来。
As soon as he enters the test room, Chuan Chuan approaches the samples with familiarity. One by one, he smells the receptacles in sequence. Before long, he successfully finds the right sample, stopping in front of receptacle number 1 and sitting down. To check that Chuan Chuan hasn't simply made a lucky guess, the trainer moves the samples and calls him back in to do the test again. Chuan Chuan finds the correct sample again and sits down in front of it like before. This lab has now completed 200 experiments with detection dogs and discovered an accuracy rate of 86%. However, for hospitals, the lab results only demonstrate that detection dogs can help doctors conduct risk assessments. They cannot replace tests conducted with precision instruments.
我的认定并不觉得说它能够替代现在所有的一些泌尿道上皮癌的检测的一个状况啊。
My view of detection dogs is that I don't think they can replace all of the bladder cancer tests currently used. However, they can help us make a judgment call and determine if someone is high risk. If they are high risk, then we can pay greater attention to that, employing the test devices we currently have to do a follow-up. In principle, the dog is a tool for detection, not a tool for confirmation.
Early detection means early treatment, but that is easier said than done. In their endless battle to diagnose patients at the opportune time, medical specialists are constantly researching effective detection methods. Here at the National Tsinghua University Electrical Engineering Department's lab, a student is blowing air into a plastic bag, which is then connected to an electric circuit board to perform analysis with the computer. This is an electronic nose. It simulates the functions of a biological nose and attempts to detect the odors produced by illnesses.
这个框框事实上是一个 chamber， 它就是让进气的东西全部在这里面做反应。
This rectangular section is a gas chamber. It allows the gases that enter to undergo reactions and then be expelled. It's like our noses through which we breathe air into the nasal cavity. That nasal cavity is like this gas chamber. Every odor has its signature, its thumbprint. We use this integrated system, which has all these different sensors that combine to look at patterns.
This electronic nose can categorize different gases, such as those expelled by pneumonia patients and healthy people. Indicated clearly by blue and red graph lines, data from 2 test groups are displayed, as well as data indicating what bacteria strains led to infection in the 2 groups of patients.
蓝色是克雷伯氏菌的病人。
The blue line represents a patient infected with Bacterium Klebsiella pneumoniae, and the red one is another type. As you can see, it has clearly separated the 2, which means that I know with 100% certainty that this person was infected with this bacterium. The blue line in this graph represents a Pseudomonas aeruginosa infection. You can see that I am able to take this, as well as 3 other bacteria represented, and completely separate them.
疾病有气体的味道吗？
Do diseases give off odors? Not necessarily, but they produce gases that can be tested for. There are some volatile gases called volatile organic compounds, which have high vapor pressure. There are some things you cannot smell. Think about carbon monoxide. You can't smell it, but you can test for it.
Faced with diseases undergoing constant change, tools like electronic noses and detection dogs can help medical professionals get a solid handle on detection and analysis. They could prove an invaluable weapon in the battle against the spread of infectious disease.